Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business News Afternoon Report for Monday the 20th of November 2023. I'm Sean Aylmer. Every afternoon we've got the 5 stories that happened today that you need to know about. Story number 1, the S&P ASX 200 closed up 0.1% to 7,058 points. It wasn't a classic day of ups and downs. Really, the bourse traded in a narrow 30-point range. The banks were generally better, led by Commonwealth Bank and National Australia Bank. The energy stocks, Woodside and Santos, both jumped more than 1%, while Aristocrat Leisure closed up 2%. The miners were mixed, so too the retailers. James Hardie and REA outperformed. Newmont and Brambles underperformed. A bunch of miners did best. Coronado Global, Karoon Energy, Allcom and Paladin Energy were the top 4 performers. The Star Entertainment Group was among the worst performers, down 4.5%. Ahead of Thursday's vote on the Brookfield EIG bid for Origin Energy, the largest shareholder, Aussie Super, who opposes the deal, lifted its stake in the company to 17%. Today, Origin Chair Scott Perkins said there'll be no knee-jerk reaction or radical reassessment of the group's structure if the vote fails. Clearly, that's something he's been thinking about. Story number 2, the Australian Security Exchange has hired Indian giant Tata Consultancy to design a replacement for its share settlement and clearing infrastructure, a year after its previous effort to replace the system was abandoned. This might be a little pointy-headed, but some big system out there needs to do all the trading of securities on the ASX, and it's a pretty big job running millions of trades every day. The current system is old, 29 years old, and is supposed to have been replaced by now by a blockchain-based system. That failed, and regulators have been very wary of the ASX Limited ever since. Today, the company said it's opted for a product-based solution, and the first release of the system is due to cost about $120 million, or at least up to $120 million, and be completed in 2026. The second phase will be done by 2032, and the regulators will be watching. Story number 3, BHP warned today that Australia's position as the world's premier mining destination is threatened by the looming industrial relations overhauls and increases in state government mining royalties. In a report entitled Recapturing Australia's Competitiveness, BHP argues that Australia could almost double its annual critical minerals investment pipeline to $19 billion if government enact policies to streamline the approvals process and deliver globally competitive regulatory settings. Australia is still the largest mining exporter by value, more than twice the size of number 2, that's the USA. We've broken out of the pack over the past couple of decades, but BHP warns that sudden and unilateral changes in tax and royalty regimes, as happened in Queensland recently, puts future investment at risk. Story number 4, the Mining and Energy Union will split from the CFMEU by next week after the federal court set down a withdrawal date more than 2 years after the miners made the decision to do so. Members voted to break away in 2021 following a fallout with the dominant construction division and bullying allegations over Victorian boss John Setka's campaign to unseat then CFMEU National Secretary Michael O'Connor. That came to a head when O'Connor didn't publicly support Setka over charges of harassing his wife. In a statement, the MEU said today, working through the legal complexities and challenges of withdrawing from our 1992 amalgamation has been a lengthy and resource-intensive process. We're pleased that this process has now come to an end, and from December 1, the Mining and Energy Union will become Australia's newest union while retaining our long and proud history. And story number 5, the local boss of Japanese gas giant Inpex says Australia's deteriorating policy climate for gas threatens future investments to support the $45 billion Ichis LNG project in Darwin. Tetsu Murayama said the retrospective application of new rules to sanction gas projects is of great concern to Inpex's leadership, given the investments required to support the potentially 40-year future in that LNG project. Now, that project is Japan's biggest overseas investment, so we need to listen. According to the Financial Review, Inpex is separately gearing up for a big increase in spending on renewables to advance Australia's 2030 emissions reduction target. Mr. Murayama also called for regulatory changes to provide more clarity and certainty for offshore gas projects, pointing to the legal challenges that have overturned approvals at work at Santos's near $6 billion Barossa gas project in the Timor Sea and Woodside's $16.5 billion Scarborough venture in Western Australia. That's it for the afternoon report for Monday, the 20th of November, 2023. Don't forget to hit follow on the podcast and find Fear and Greed on LinkedIn, Instagram, X and Facebook. Join Michael Thompson and I tomorrow morning for the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed, the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your evening.